YouTube vinyl community, Temptations fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about the Temptations 1970 release, Psychedelic Shack. That's where it's at. I have this on CD. I don't have it on record yet. I'd like to pick it up at some point. This is cool. This is actually a 2018 reissue through Motown and Universal Music Special Products and Elemental Music. Really lovingly put together. I have to admit they did a nice job with it. They made it look like the original LP jacket, but they gave it a cool gatefold, which is nice. A really good shot of the guys there, looking all cool. And it's got a little LP replica style sleeve for the CD. So very well done. And I gotta admit, the sound of this thing is fantastic. And one thing I will go into is that they put the long version of Psychedelic Shack on here, which was kind of a surprise. I was waiting for the fade out, and all of a sudden it just keeps going, and I'm like, all right, sweet, they put the 6-minute version on here. So definitely worth picking up for that alone. I mean, that's a really hard version of that song to find. Doesn't pop up all that often. I think it's on the Psychedelic Soul Greatest Hits, and that's about it. So very cool to have it on this as well. Anyways, the Temptations at this point were a few albums deep with Dennis as the lead singer, or the new addition to the group at this point, because they were all taking turns, doing leads at this point, very heavily, as opposed to when David was in the group, and pretty much dominating the whole solo lead singer thing. Eddie was in there too. Paul was doing some voices, but for the most part, David Ruffin was doing most of the leads. So by this point, when Dennis joined, they kind of switched up their whole routine. Otis was a big, I guess you could say, proponent of changing the sound and doing something a little more funky, a little bit more fun. Just going someplace differently that was kind of maybe a break from the David Ruffin era, or just because they just wanted to try something different because of wanting to keep up with trends and not get stale. They were big Sly and the Family Stone fans, and that influence was there for a while. And this is their most indulgently psychedelic soul album. And it pays off so well. It's a fantastic record. I mean, the one before this, Puzzle People, definitely dabbled with psychedelic soul, but not as heavily as this one. Just goes headfirst into the deep end, which I really I like a lot. I think it's so much fun. This album did really well for them. It hit number 7 on the Billboard pop charts and number 2 on the R&B charts. Hit number 33 in the UK, so not a bad showing over there. But it came out March 6, 1970. The lead single, I think, Psychedelic Shack, which was the only single on this thing, that's what went to number 7. I think the album itself went to number 9, if memory serves me correctly here. But yeah, at this point, they had just been proving themselves, for a few albums now, between the stuff they did with the Supremes for a while, and now a few albums in with Dennis here with Cloud 9, Puzzle People, Psychedelic Shack. This was definitely a peak for them. And also kind of like the beginning of the end of Phase 3, I guess you can call it, the Temptations. The classic era was Phase 2, because the original member, I think his name was Al, was the one who got kicked out or left or was fired or something, and then David Ruffin came in. So that's the classic era, the classic 5, and then David was either left or got fired. Dennis came in. And then this group lasted up until just about a year later. I mean, the Sky's the Limit album is the last one with Eddie and Paul on it, before Paul unfortunately succumbed to a lot of his alcoholism and his sickle cell disease, forcing him to just not be able to be on the road anymore. And Eddie was kind of just fed up with what was happening, and apparently just didn't like that Paul wasn't going to be there anymore, and I guess he was having arguments with some of the guys, or they were all having arguments together. You're in a band. It's going to happen. You're in a group with 5 dudes, and you're constantly in the room with each other, constantly on tour with each other, constantly on the bus with each other, seeing each other on stage. That's your entire life. Of course you're going to have arguments. It just comes with the territory. It's being in a band 101. But yeah, it's interesting to hear the Temptations really go from being one of the foremost Motown sounding groups that there was to forging a whole new path with Norman Whitfield as their producer, who had been there for a while now. But because at this point, if you hear stuff from the end of the Supremes era with Diana Ross, it still sounds fairly Motown-ish. There's a hint of some psychedelic soul dropped in there. Songs like Love Child, I think, are a little bit different than what they had done before. Reflections is a good example too. And Smokey Robinson, the Miracles, they were still doing their pretty much Smokey Robinson, the Miracles thing. They really didn't change too much. They got a little groovier, maybe, a little more flower power like, but nothing like, take a stroll through your mind, like that kind of stuff. um, so yeah, it's very cool to hear them do something like this, and it's very cool to kind of see them grow as a group and try something different and see where it went. And ultimately, this was their last album that was like full on like this, because after this, it became more of the cinematic soul stuff, which they did for another couple of years after this. And they still had success after Eddie and Paul left. They had the song Superstar, and of course, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, which is a gigantic, one of the biggest songs they ever did. And you gotta think that was only with two original members at that point, Otis and Melvin. And then Dennis was the seasoned vet at this point, having been there for 3 or 4 years at that point, I guess. So yeah, it's just an interesting group. I've always been fascinated by the member changes of this band and just how the group has worked over the years and remains a group. And Otis is still the lead guy in the band. It's still his group, and there's a couple of guys that have been there since the 80s, and Ron Tyson's been there since like 1982 or something. So anyway, I can go on and on about that forever, but this album for me is easily one of my favorites. I don't think it is my absolute favorite, but it's definitely high up there. Maybe if you asked me on a different day, I'd say yeah, it's my favorite, but it just plays so well. I think it's such a cool album. So Psychedelic Shack, this long version, is a little bit more spacey. There's a bit of a longer intro, and of course there's a longer outro, because the single version of this thing just kind of fades out as they're singing. This one continues, so the voices get to a point where they end, and then the music just keeps on jamming and riffing for a long time, and it works really well. It's such an upbeat, groovy, happy song that you can get lost in that riff over and over again and still enjoy it. It doesn't get old for that one. It's not like the tension-building cinematic soul that you'd hear later on in songs like Masterpiece or on, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, where those kind of like are just tense and they build and build and build. This one's just a groovy, freak-out fun time. Like, this is just cool. I really enjoy this one a lot, and they're vocally having so much fun on it. I love how they all take turns. Every single one of them gets a nice solo showpiece. And I love having the 6-minute version on this particular CD. So if you find this anywhere in the stores, pick it up, because it's worth it for that 6-minute version alone. Hands down, a fantastic single, and it was also featured on their Greatest Hits 2 album the same year, 1970. You make your own heaven and hell right here on earth. This is a fantastic song. I love the build-up of this one in that it's almost like they create a story, basically, on just figuring out what your version of heaven and hell could be, and it happens to be right where you are. Like, you find your own happiness, you find your own, find your own negativity, but sometimes it finds you. And you have to figure out how to live with all of that happening and just do your life. So it's kind of what that song is about. I love the fuzzy guitar riff, the hammering away drums. Again, excellent vocals. I love the whole time passes. Like, that's just cool. And the chorus is just catchy, super catchy. I love the way Dennis just growls on that thing. And he had such an amazing voice. He really did. Much different from David Ruffin's, and I kind of like that they have two different sort of voices in that field. Whereas, like, after Eddie left, they brought on Damon Harris, and he sounded a lot like Eddie, to the point where it's almost hard to tell if it's not him or not, especially songs like Superstar. Like, wow, that sounds a lot like Eddie. Crazy. So, yeah, really dig that song. Hum Along and Dance, this is the song that the Jackson 5 would go on to do later on. I mean, Temptations, Jackson 5, Supremes, everyone did everybody's songs on Motown. It's just what you did. So it's cool to hear their version on here first, along with War is on here too. But Hum Along and Dance, this is a cool song, and definitely the beginning of what would happen with the cinematic soul stuff, where it's mostly music and not a whole lot of vocals happening. But the vocals that do happen are interesting. Eddie, I love what he does. I love the echo on his voice. But then Melvin comes in and just steals the track. I love what he does. He's got that deep, bassy tone. So fun to listen to it. I love the clean guitar on this thing. It's just a jam overall. The horns in the background are cool, and the excellent stereo mixing is fantastic. If you have a system you can listen to it on with speakers that have a pretty good dynamic range, and they're just going to present sound well, you'll get that hard panning, and that sounds really cool on big speakers, and especially with something trippy like the Psychedelic Shack. Very cool. Take a Stroll Through Your Mind. This song's fantastic, and it literally comes at the tail end of Hum Along and Dance. They're kind of smashed together. But this song is just a straight up trippy song, man. It's like, I like that real calm, cool essence that Eddie's got in his voice on this one. It's just a chill, simple track. But there's different moments of it where each guy gets to shine. Dennis says that welcome to the circus bit, and Paul's got the part about working so hard, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of thing. It's fantastic, and then Melvin's got that, there is no young, there is no old. Reach out and touch your soul. Like, it's so good. So it's definitely a song about, possibly drugs, I'm assuming. And just taking a stroll through your mind and be amazed what you might find. Very cool track. It's so trippy. It's so of its time. It's so something you get lost in. You put the song on and just chill and let it happen and listen to it. Very cool song. Side 2 started off It's Summer. This is an original version. They did it later on, a couple years later, to make it a single or a B-side. I can't remember. I really enjoy this song. It's the most pop-oriented, ballad-esque song on the album, and Melvin does a great job of basically talking about this story of summer. Not necessarily like a love song. It's just saying like, hey, the weather's getting nice. We're gonna be outside. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna hang out with each other, have a good time. It's summer. It's fun. I really enjoy that track. I know for a lot of people it might not be like the best song on the album, but I like that song a lot. It's really comfortable. They just have calming voices. It just sounds smooth and just pleasant to listen to. So nothing wrong with that. War. This is the original version here before Edwin Starr got it. And this happened a couple of times with the Temptations, where they'd do a song and then someone else would come along and do it, as a single, or have much more success with it, or be more known for it because of that. Their version, though, is very cool. I really like how much Paul gets some solo vocals on this one. And the Hope 2, 3, 4 by Melvin in the background. Fantastic version. It's a bit looser, a little bit more of a kind of a groovier vibe as opposed to the really regimented, really in-your-face version that Edwin started. I like hearing this, and the use of empty space is insanely effective on this song. Yeah, the whole start and stop flow kind of thing is fantastic. What an interesting groove for a song, and it just works. Having that start and stop thing just really captures your attention. You're just kind of locked into that feeling of an inescapable music train, fun. You're just locked in that groove, and it's such a cool time signature. That's what I was looking to find. That was the word I wanted to. Not train signature. There we go. You Need Love Like I Do, Don't You? It's a fantastic song. This song's been done a bunch of times. Actually, I first heard this song by Tom Jones doing it on his Reload album back in the 90s. Well, it came out in the 90s. I didn't hear it in the 90s, but I heard it later on. So yeah, but I love this song. Eddie nails the lead vocal on this song. It just stomps along. It's charged up. That chorus is so infectious. I'm a sucker for choruses that have a bit of a tongue twist kind of thing going on, or it's like a really quickly said phrase that repeats itself or changes just a little bit, just enough bits and pieces to make you go, it's really cool. Again, just an excellent groove on this one, and it really steps up the pace. I think after having It's Summer, which is kind of a chill song, and War being political, You Need Love Like I Do, it's kind of a good moment to add some love to the album, and give it some more of a poppy step, I'd say. And the album ends with Friendship Train, and Dennis takes the lead on this one. I love the positive message here. It's just, for me, this may have also been an inspiration for Love Train by the OJs. I mean, it's definitely got kind of the same message and same image. Just about getting together, being humans, cheering each other on. A message that still stands up today. There's nothing wrong with that. The train sound on this thing sounds exactly like the train sound at the end of Caroline No on Pet Sounds, and I'm wondering if they are the same, unless they just happen to catch two trains that sound just exactly alike. I'd be really interested to learn more about that, but I like the end of the song too, where they all call out to each other and have everybody kind of do one little vocal take before the album ends. But let me show you the inside here with the sleeve, which is great. So it's got, what I really like a lot about the inside of the sleeves, it mentions all the Funk Brothers, the guys who helped record this thing, and the band the Motown house band. I love that. So they got, they list obviously all the guys of the Temptations. And I want to say this was actually made or came out right before Dennis Edwards passed, because it's dedicated to the memories of Eddie Kendricks, Paul Williams, Melvin Franklin, and Norman Whitfield. So I'm sure if this was produced, right before Dennis Edwards, or he would have been listed if he had passed away while they were making this. So it must have just come out like right after he passed away. And the back here has just some lead singer information here. It says recorded between November of '69 and February of 1970 in Detroit. And it says who's got the lead vocals here for each track. So I'll let you guys pause there and take a look at it. Very cool set. I really like the way they packaged this. I love the sound of it. I love the way they produced it. It's just a really nice mix, and it's a great picture of the guys there again. Very cool. Yeah, awesome album. Highly recommend it. I'd easily give this thing a 9 out of 10. Hands down, no doubt. A lot of fun to listen to. It's good to hear them in this era, and it's good to hear them still basically be the original Temptations at this point, before the group really started to change a lot in the 70s. So it's cool to hear all the guys still there. And yeah, fantastic album. So 9 out of 10 for this one for me. Interested to know what you guys think. I know I do the Temptations here once in a while. I'd like to see more people talking on these videos, because I love talking about the Temptations albums. I'm going to do as many of them as I can get my hands on, because they have a ton of albums to go over. I still haven't heard all of them. There's a lot in there, so a lot of fun to talk about these guys. They've always been one of my favorite groups, and always will. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Giggens. This has been the Temptations Psychedelic Shack. That's where it's at. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.